Hello, Year 3, Mr. David here for Wednesday's art lesson. Today's learning intention is I can replicate patterns seen in natural or built environments. First of all, this is a very pixelated, very zoomed in picture of something we're going to be looking at today. Can you tell what it is yet? I will delete this and we're going to zoom out in 3, 2, 1. Can you see it now? Can you make out what it is? Zooming out again. 3, 2, 1. There it is. A few more clues. 3, 2, 1. Okay, here it is. This is a Greek building. And what are these called? You might have seen them around and about, even here in England. These are called columns, and they were built in the time of ancient Greece. So the column, sorry, is the most prominent element in ancient Greek architecture. It's very hard to say. Ancient Greek architecture. Um, yes, so they're very, very famous. You can notice them from miles away. Columns, now they're there to support the roof, but they also gave buildings a feeling of order and strength and balance, a sense of importance. Now, it would be extremely rare to have a house have columns like this back in ancient Greek times. Nowadays, you might see it, but this was to identify a really important place. And as you can see, there are other types of columns that they use. In fact, we're going to be looking at 3 types of columns. So before we look, um, let's have a look at this bit at the top part of the column. Now, most columns, as you can see, are pretty simple going up right until this last bit here. And that last bit is called the capital. And the capital was a design at the top of the column. So there are 3 types of columns. First of all, we've got Doric. We've also got Ionic. And we've got Corinthian. Just looking at these 3 types of columns, what differences do you notice? You can pause here if you'd like to have a closer look. Okay, so you can notice that the Doric is a bit simpler. It's one of the simpler designs, isn't it? The Ionic, they have curls. It looks like curls, doesn't it? And um, interesting patterns, um, repeated patterns, and Corinthian over here. Wow, it's really decorated, isn't it? Let's have a closer look at these 3. So Doric, as we can see here. This is the simplest of the columns, and it's also the oldest style because it was built around 700 BC. The Doric column does not have a base, but its grooved, thick, vertical shape rests directly on the floor of the building. The column, this part here, has 20 flutes. Now, you can see these grooves, can't you, here? They are called flutes. They're lines that are carved into them. And as we said, the base is on the building's floor. Moving on, a little bit closer towards us on our timeline, Ionic, constructed of stone and provided more strength and stability. Now it doesn't actually say it here, and I apologise. I'll say it now. These Doric columns could have been made out of wood as well, so they moved on to stone. These were built around 650 to 550 BC. They are taller, thinner, and more graceful. The capital at the top, like we saw, features scrolls in each corner, and the columns have added an extra 4. Look, they now have 24 flutes all the way around. Flutes are, of course, those lines that are carved into them. And finally, we move on to Corinthian, which are the most decorative, aren't they? You might have noticed lots of patterns, and there seems to be flowers on this one, which is really lovely. So the capital is always embellished, which means it's very decorative and has lots of detail with flowers, fruit, leaves, and other decorations. Sometimes humans as well. Um, the column has 24 flutes. Sorry, let me just edit that now. It's 24 flutes, just like the Ionic, and this was built, or started to appear around 400 to 300 BC as well. So next time you're walking around and you see a building with pillars, stop and have a look at the capital, see if you can identify which period it is from. So activity one is just a bit of a warm-up activity. So I have found some really great sketches of Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian um, columns, and I would like you to draw the other side of it. So we've got our left side, and our right side is going to be almost like a mirror image of the left side. Now this is where you could use a ruler to place down half down where it's going to begin, and you can see in the mirror the symmetry. You can see the pattern and what it will look like. So use that to your advantage if you have one. If not, have a bit of fun. Be careful with the measurements. Use a ruler for straight lines, and come back shortly once you've had a go. Brilliant, well done. Activity 2 is now time to design your own column. So I want you to think carefully about the flutes and the capital. So I've put on here and on your page lots of designs that I've found online. Feel free to have a look yourself as well. Down here, a bit more complicated as well. Can you see that actually some columns are just simply used to hold up vases or vases, which is so interesting, but we're looking at the building ones today. So think about layers. Um, if you have got flowers or blocks or shapes, are they going to overlap each other? Because if they do, that is fine. Grooves as well. If you're looking at the flutes, mark out where it would go in as well. And please hang on to these pictures as well, because you're going to bring them in and they're going to inspire our future work in art at school. So let me just show you one that I have made. Now I stole this bit. I'm sorry, I'm not that good of an artist. But it was a really good example of what we are looking for. So looking up here at the capital, it's a basic top, but we can't get too creative up there because that's where the ceiling's going to be, or the roof, sorry, that's where the roof's going to be. Here's a repeated pattern. Now you can only see it once, and you're going to have to assume it keeps going on. But I've chosen the waves. I really like that scroll. I've also added flowers, so I've used a little bit of Ionic and Corinthian in there as well. Now for the flutes, I just used basic lines. I didn't want to get too creative in there, but you can choose what you would like to do there as well. Yeah, so just remember layers. You can see the darker bits. It makes it look like it's on top of something else as well. So that's not just all going to be flat. By adding this little bit of shadow, it shows that it's actually stuck on top. Flutes, yep, make sure you've got your flutes there, and pattern as well. Make sure you've got some repeated patterns in there, just like the columns we've been looking at. Brilliant. We look forward to seeing firstly your completed columns from the halves that we've given you, and finally, and most importantly, your idea, your columns that you're going to bring into school and we'll look at and take into future art lessons. So thank you very much. Have a lovely afternoon.